Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator Podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and today we are talking about the Valley Reunion Part 1. Let's get into it. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great week so far and are looking forward to the weekend. I know that I am. It is 7 a.m. right now on Friday. I have been up since 4:30. I have been having the worst sleep lately. I've always had really bad insomnia, but yeah, it is getting fast and fierce lately. So it's really hard for me to get through the day because I kind of start crashing around like 11, 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. because I've been awake for several hours. So I figured I might as well podcast now, get this out of the way, and then when that's all done, I'll start my full 8-hour day of work. So that's what's going on over here. If you've missed the other episodes this week, I will just fill you in on what you missed. Monday, we had our reality roundup, which is all the reality TV news, not just Bravo. We also talk Love is Blind, Secret Lives, whatever else is going on, Teen Mom. And then yesterday, Thursday, I recapped episodes 3 and 4 of House of Stassi. So those are going to come out weekly every Thursday. So next Thursday, you'll get episodes 5 and 6. And then the following Thursday, you'll get episodes 7 and 8. I was actually able to get the whole season in Canada, even though most people didn't. I know in the US, they were able to get the whole season, but they're only dropping episodes, it looks like, weekly in Canada. I'm not sure about the UK or Australia or anything like that, but I have the whole season and I watched it. So those are already all ready to go. And then today we're doing the Valley. And then tomorrow I have Antoinette from Bits of Banter with Antoinette on Instagram. We're going to be talking Married at First Sight episodes 10 to 12. And tomorrow on my other podcast, which is called All You Need Is You, a podcast about living your best solo life, I have Sarah C. from the Vanderpump Rules Party podcast, which you probably know from our universe. It is the longest standing Vanderpump Rules podcast out there. And we've been chatting, and she has been living her best solo life. So I was like, let me get you on the pod. Let me talk to you about your life. So that will also come out on Saturday. And then I think I am going to cover Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. I wasn't sure about it because I just thought it was going to be, I don't know, like light, fluffy, stupid. I don't know, right? Like who knows what it's going to be, but I feel like I'm not covering a lot of Bravo right now because we've got House of Stassi, Married at First Sight. That's why I'm covering the Valley reunion. But um, yeah, I figured I got to throw some Bravo in there. So I like podcasting like 4 or 5 days a week now outside of my full-time job, which is a lot, but I am loving it. And just in case you missed the last time I announced, I am now with Cloud 10, which is super exciting. They're an amazing podcast network with some of the best shows. So I'm really excited to be partnering with them in order to help grow my show. So yay to the Bravo Investigator podcast. And let's get into it. So as you guys know, I did not cover the Valley this season. It sucked, but I actually kind of wish I binged it because a lot of people said that. They said that they didn't really watch, and then when they binged it, they actually kind of wanted more, more, more. So maybe it kind of felt less boring or awful or about the same thing over and over again if you were watching it all sequentially, but I wasn't, right? I did end up doing an episode with my friend Jill Badlotto, another content creator, talking about like the shift in discourse around Danny and Janet from like last season to this season. So we covered that, but I figured, you know what? The reunions will probably be interesting, so why don't I just cover that? And like I said, it's 7 a.m. I have nothing else to do, so here we are. Here we sit. So let's get right into it. I will say, for the record, for those of you who are newer to the show, for reunions, they're difficult for me to recap because I'm not a line by line recapper. I do more so like major themes and plot points, but that's hard to do with a reunion. So I just sort of do my best. I don't cover every last, LOL from Andy or every last like little joke. I just cover sort of the things that I think are worthy of talking about. And obviously this week there was a lot of chatter in the Valley universe because Brittany did a sit down article with People, or sorry, an interview with People, and about Jackson Laurie. And Jax has responded since on TMZ. So I'll be covering all of that on Monday on the Reality Roundup. I also had Brittany and Janet and Zach all up in my comments talking about it. So we'll talk all about that on Monday. So today we are just doing the reunion, part one. And I know some people are sort of wondering, where's that pickup scene that we heard that there was going to be, where we're getting like Brittany and Kristen and other people's reactions to the Jax and Lori of it all. I think they're probably going to tack it on to the end of the third part of the reunion. So that's another reason why I wanted to make sure I'm covering the reunion, because I want to make sure we're addressing that. But anyways, let's get right into it. One of the major things that we talk about is Brittany and her relationship with Jax, because he's not here. This is her first reunion without him. She has primary custody. I'm not sure what that means exactly, because usually, I mean, I could just look it up, but like primary custody to me would mean that she has the majority of the custody, but usually you hear people say like full custody. So I guess he has some sort of visitation, but I don't know exactly what the schedule is. She used to make him do drug tests. She doesn't do that anymore, or not as often. She actually says that she believes that he's sober, but that hasn't changed anything. He's still the same person. So it's interesting to hear her say that she does believe that he's sober, because a lot of people still don't. A lot of people are like, he's still too red and beefy and sweaty. And that's just like not the look of a sober person, is what a lot of people say. I don't know, right? Like I'm not an alcoholic, so I really definitely don't know the signs and symptoms and that kind of thing. But I remember hearing a lot of people say things like that. Um, their divorce is still ongoing. Now, there was an article that came out last week where Jax was saying that Brittany was the one holding up their divorce. We'll talk about that on Monday in Brittany's People interview. But in terms of what was being said here, Andy asked her whether like his name will still be on the deed and the mortgage. And she's like, well, once the divorce is like fully settled, he'll be off the mortgage, all of that, but she's still paying his tax debt, because remember how he was like $1.2 million behind in his taxes. And so they had to tack that onto their mortgage. And so that's what she is still paying for. And then we get some stuff about like how Jax has been treating the other cast members. So apparently Jax came at Jesse a few months ago because he did an interview at like a charity, like an addiction charity or something with Lacy. And apparently he like started freaking out on Jesse about it, but he didn't actually watch the interview, like classic Jax. And so it was so like out of the blue. And so they've had a falling out because of that. And then Danny said that Jax texted him out of the blue and sort of apologized to him. And Brittany thinks that's hilarious because in their parenting app, so a lot of people have this app, when you're divorced and you have kids and you have like a contentious relationship, everything in this like parenting app, it's like the only way you can communicate, or it's the only way you're supposed to communicate. And it's all like documented, authenticated, it can't be deleted. And so everything you say in there will be used against you, sort of thing. And apparently like, it kind of warns you if you're getting too aggressive or something. That's what I heard. Anyway, so Brittany said that Jack said in the parenting app that he wants to come back to the show to take Danny down, which I totally believe. And again, it's authenticated, so she can easily prove it. And it just is interesting, right? Because like it seems like you know, I noticed as someone who is working the steps that it never appeared that he really made the rounds and did the apologies, which we all know from like movies is part of that, getting better, right? You have to like make your amends to the people that you've wronged. And so you sort of question, is that what he's trying to do? But it doesn't seem like it, right? Because like if he's continuing to say things behind people's backs, he's the same old Jax, right? So his apologies kind of don't mean anything. Now, this is really interesting. Brittany said that basically there was like all of these burner accounts who were messaging her, and there was like this Reddit thread that was created, and it was talking all of this shit about everyone in the group, including Tom Schwartz's girlfriend Kiana. And Jack said that it was not him, but like Brittany is like, I'm sure that it is, because this person was saying things that only he would know, and was saying really disparaging things like, oh, she's had all this surgery and she still looks the same. Now, I know this sounds like something Jax did, like, obviously. And I don't know how to say this without saying too much. But when I saw this scene, it really made me think of something that happened a while ago. Again, I can only say there was this person who was in the friend group who is no longer in the friend group. And it's not someone that you guys would even know. And I have pretty concrete proof that this person had created burner accounts and was messaging Jax and saying all of this crazy shit, talking anti-Semitic stuff, talking shit about Britney. And so when and it's my understanding that the group no longer speaks to this person, but I don't know if everyone in the group no longer speaks to this person. But when I heard Brittany say this, it just put like a light bulb in my head of like, wait, that sounds like that person. Again, of course, this is something Jax would do. And is he too stupid to set up all these accounts? I don't know. Right? He had the Frank Drummond account. It just really sounds like this other person. And I guess it doesn't matter at the end of the day if the group is not speaking to him, to this other person, and nobody wants to speak to Jax anyways. I don't know how much it really matters. But like, I don't know. I really think it's this other person. Which I know is crazy, but like, I have more information than I wish I had. I'll just say that. Okay, then we talk about Michelle and Aaron. So you remember that Michelle and Aaron broke up like a year ago. And they had moved in together, and that didn't end up working out. Michelle sort of explained that he said a little bit more than just the like, you don't work out enough stuff. He said something like, you look great now, but like, you may not look great forever. I cannot believe this Aaron guy said that. And it's also so awful because like, it's a really big deal to bring not just a person into your home, but her child, right? That is creating another family. And they even cut to a scene, I think it was like in the last episode or something like that, or maybe it was in the reunion where Aaron says to Michelle, like, would it be weird if Isabella like lived here with me? And she's like, not if you had the intention to marry me, right? And so he should never have allowed them to move in or never had made those steps if he wasn't ready to do so or if he never saw himself marrying Michelle. Because to my understanding, like they broke up shortly after they moved in together, right? Like that was a really fucking stupid mistake on his part. And listen, we all make mistakes, we all realize things later on, but I just wish he had put a lot more forethought into it because she has a kid, right? So Jesse ends up like crying, like actual tears about how Isabella cried under the covers, about losing Aaron when they broke up, and he wasn't ready for his little girl's first heartbreak. Now, I get that. I do, right? It must have been really hard for Isabella. And Michelle does not come off well for the rest of this reunion. So I'm going to give her a little bit of grace right now because it doesn't continue for the rest of the episode. But I will say that she dated the guy for over a year. She thought that they were going somewhere. It's all well and good that Jesse and Lacy are still together and that worked out. It didn't work out for Michelle, right? She's not trying to introduce her kid to like all of these different guys. Like that's not the intent. She's intending to be with one person. It just didn't work out that way with Aaron. So there may be other people that her daughter ends up meeting along the way. Should you be careful about it in future? Sure. And she even said, like, I want to keep things with Dr. Dre private. My daughter has not met him, but, and that they met through a mutual friend or whatever. But, obviously she's being more careful about that now. But I don't think it's fair to come down on Michelle so hard for the fact that her daughter ended up getting hurt on the basis of her breakup because, again, they were together a long time. They had the intentions of being together. They decided to move in together. Things happen. And if Jesse and Lacy do end up breaking up one day and he moves on with someone else, it'll be the same thing, right? It's just didn't happen to work out that way for Michelle. So just want to give her a little bit of grace there. Jesse talks a little bit about Lacy and how they met. He said he met her on a dating site in 2013. And like 4 or 5 months after his separation from Michelle, he heard that Lacy's grandmother died and he knew how close she was to her. So that's how they really reconnected. While Michelle is saying, no, I think you were just with her for the money. I think you like her, but I think initially you were with her for the money. And it's like, I mean, Lacy says this later on because she does come out. She was like, I don't like that you guys say that I like have paid for him for the past 6 months. I doubt that she does. I really don't know. I have absolutely no idea, but I doubt that she like pays for things for him. Like I can't see her really doing that. And she's a smart enough woman that she wouldn't date someone who is after her money. Like she's just too smart for that. So they listen, Jesse is a lot of things, but I think they do have a really nice, beautiful relationship. I do think that he has changed a lot, which is something that he has said that Lacy has made him a better parent and a better person. He's still a dick, right? But I think we've seen so much improvement in him, and I do credit that a lot to her. So I think that that's really amazing. Then we talk about Brandon and Brittany. So remember the guy that she dated early on in the season. Now she said that she's not great about the red flags and like a lot of the group didn't really like him. It wasn't that she was moving too fast. They just didn't like him, which I understand. He was very like getting very involved in other people's business sort of thing for someone who didn't really know these people. And she admitted that she gave him around $10,000 during their relationship, which is like, Brittany, no. And everyone was so shocked. So it really sucks that that happened. Um, he only ended up being off of work for like a couple of days while he was supposed to be taking care of her after her surgery. So I remember her saying like, oh, because he was taking time off of work and time away from his kids, I wanted to give him that money. But like, it takes me almost 2 months to make $10,000. So I can't imagine that that's what he was making at his job, whatever his job is. I know that he had come out around the time and said something like, that's like peanuts for her. It's like barely any money, but it's the principle. It is a lot of money, whether it's a lot of money for her or not. Like it creates like a weird power imbalance where like you're giving your partner money and I don't know. Like she said she didn't see the red flags right away, but at the same time, I do kind of want to commend Brittany for like kicking him to the curb pretty early on, right? Like she didn't drag it out. She really didn't. She was like, you know what? These things are, they only dated what, like a few months? And you could see like pretty quickly in, she's like, yeah, these things are bothering me. I'm done with him. And then she was, right? So maybe she is learning and like, yeah, maybe she gave him some money and yeah, maybe she didn't notice the red flags right away. But I feel like she noticed them a lot sooner than she did with Jax, right? Like it took her 10 years to get rid of that guy. So small moves, small wins. Um, then we talk about Britney's surgery because she had that mommy makeover. And this is where we start to come down on Nia because Brittany was like, I felt like you or not congratulated me. Like you wished me well on social media, but I didn't get a personal text from you. And then you're like in your glam chair and you're doing all these things and you say you're scrolling on social media, but you couldn't have time to text me. And Nia's like, I apologize for that. I'm really sorry. I thought I had done enough. But I also just want to say, and I don't want to like kind of put it on this, but I was freshly postpartum as well. And Jasmine and Lala both roll their eyes. And I was just like, listen, I know we don't like Danny and Nia this season, but like, we gave Kristen a lot more grace for her postpartum than we did Nia. We see the postpartum express itself much more flagrantly with Kristen than with Nia, especially this season. Nia definitely, if she was postpartum, was really holding it together. Sorry, you're postpartum. I mean, like whether she had postpartum depression. Last year, we saw that very differently. We saw her crying. We saw that really play out. This year, she was a lot stronger. And so maybe people kind of forgot she was postpartum. And again, I know that we don't like Danny and Nia, but for this one part where like she didn't text Brittany personally, okay. Right? Like, I get that it was an elective surgery, and some people are like, who cares? For Brittany, she said it was a really big deal for her because she was treated so badly by Jax for so long, and he said so many horrible things about her body. But, like, I don't know. These people always get like so hurt about like the follow-ups when it comes to, I mean, do you remember like Sheena in like season 3 or 4 where she was upset because Stassi didn't text her after her teeth surgery? I mean, it's just, there's a lot of that stuff, right? And I do still want to give Nia grace for the fact that she was postpartum, just as postpartum as Kristen. So I don't really feel like the eye rolls were necessary in that regard. So then we have our darling Lacy come out, and she looks absolutely beautiful. And we get some information about what happened last year at the finale. So we saw some clips of this. We heard about it where there was like this fight that broke out between like Michelle and Lacy and Aaron. I also heard that like Aaron grabbed Lacy's arm. Aaron wasn't allowed to film anymore because of that incident or whatever. But there was also like some camera footage that Jasmine had, and we got to see bits of it. You see Michelle like screaming at Lacy. Now, Michelle explains her side of the story. She said that Lacy came up to her after filming was done and wanted to talk to her. Michelle was drinking and she didn't want to have that conversation. Lacy wouldn't let it go, and they ended up yelling at each other. And then Lacy says, "Why did you make Jasmine delete that clip of you yelling?" And she's like, "Because I was yelling." Just because it's like you weren't committing a crime. Like, why do you have to delete footage of yelling? But okay. And Lacy said, "Everyone has basically apologized to me for that night except you, Michelle. What I want you to say is like, you're projecting your hate for your ex-husband onto me. And I didn't do anything." And Michelle's like, "The next day, Lacy, you called me and you told me how our friendship was going to be." And Lacy's like, "I did not." And she's like, "Yes, you did. And you said, if you don't do things the way I say, I'll sue you and I have all the money in the world." And Lacy denies that. I believe Lacy because I do. I think she's a really stand-up human being. We have a personal relationship, and I feel like I've got to know her really well. And she's just like not a liar. And we have proven Michelle to be a liar in a few situations. We'll see that as this goes on. But even with like, for example, this may come up on the reunion, so I'm not sure if I'm giving you guys some tea, but what was it again? So, oh, right. So Michelle said in a confessional early in the season that Lacy's ex-boyfriend told Michelle that she sends cease and desist to everybody or she sues everybody or something like that. Then Lacy showed me a text message chain between her ex and Michelle and her because she put them all in a group chat. She was like, Michelle, why did you tell this guy this? Because that's not true. And he goes, yeah, Michelle, I didn't say that. And then she just left the group. So, there's that. Plus, there's something that comes up in a minute. But Lacy denies yelling at Michelle ever. And I do believe her in that regard. Michelle continues to maintain that Lacy is unstable and chaotic. And again, I do agree with Lacy that she is just projecting. Like, everyone else in the group likes Lacy. This woman, like, is a philanthropist. She's like a really kind soul. I think she just wants to hate her, which I get. But that must be really difficult for her because there's so little about Lacy not to like. So Lacy says that that Michelle is just projecting her hate from about Jesse onto Lacy, which makes a lot of sense. And Michelle keeps reverting back to how badly Jesse treated her at the beginning of their divorce. And Lacy's like, that doesn't give you a right to treat me like crap and to lie about me. Like, I get that he treated you badly. That's what I'm saying. You're projecting your feelings about him onto me. And then she's like, Jesse was awful. She's like, okay, but what does that have to do with me? And then Lacy brings up this incident. I don't know how this started or where it came to be, but I guess Michelle was yelling at Jesse in the street. Her neighbors were watching. Michelle doesn't deny it, but she tries to like turn this around and just be like, but why does this matter? This doesn't matter. She tries to blame things again on how bad Jesse is as a person. And Lacy says, that doesn't excuse you texting me 4 times saying that you're going to expose me and ruin my life. And Michelle's like, I never did that. And then the entire rest of the cast on the stage is like, we've seen the text. Yeah. Yeah, you did say that. So again, she's just lying, right? So she's not coming off great in this reunion. If it was a fight between, if this was a battle on the reunion stage between Michelle and Jesse, Michelle would win because she has more facts. But between her and Lacy, again, I really don't feel like she has any like justifiable grounds to treat Lacy the way that she's been treating her, except for the fact that she's dating her ex. You know what I'm saying? So then Lacy says that Michelle called her like when they first started dating and was like, Jesse is an alcoholic and he spent all our money. And Lacy's like, well, I haven't seen any of that behavior, but if I do see it, I will come to you. I will always support you first as a mom. I will always have your back as a mom. So that's what their initial conversation was, the one where apparently they talked only a month in to when Jesse and Lacy started dating, which we had heard about, right? Like they were going to have like this mom to mom conversation. And that's like apparently what it was. And Lacy just wants Michelle to be accountable and say, you don't like me because I'm with Jesse. Like, just say that. Lacy doesn't like that the girls think that she's been paying for Jesse for 6 months and accuses them of deep-rooted misogyny. Now, this is interesting because I don't think that these women are misogynists. I don't. I truly think that if, I mean, most of them now like Lacy, right? When they were not nice to her, I think that all really had to do with them just trying to protect Michelle. I think they do love women and for the most part do try to support women, just not the one that's dating their friend's ex. And I feel like they were probably just being girls. Now, guys know I love Lacy down and, this isn't something against her. I'm just like taking a look at this scene and this portion and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I need to think a little bit more on it. I love to discuss misogyny, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's the case here. I think it's just more so a particular person kind of situation, which again wasn't warranted because Lacy is lovely. So Michelle and Jesse talk about how they both find each other performative, which is, yeah, we hear them both use these words quite often on the show. Zach jumps in and he's like, I've actually told them both not to use that word anymore. He talks about how he talks to Jesse all the time to the point where it's almost like harassment. And he's noticed how much Jesse has truly changed. And you can see in Michelle's face that she absolutely hates that. But I mean, it is what it is. It's true. So then Jesse thinks that Michelle was actually coached by Lala and that she's fake and that she just wants to change how people see her. I mean, a lot of people think that Lala's role this season was coaching her friends, Janet, Michelle, whoever. I don't know if she coached her, but probably gave her some tips about like how to navigate this world for sure. Is Michelle fake? I don't think she's fake, but I do think that she cares about the public perception of her in the same way that Jesse does. I don't think that he cares any more or less than she does. I think they both really care. And I don't know if that's like a major, like, you know, woohoo, like, revelation. I feel like a lot of these people do care about how they're viewed by the public, right? We talk about Jasmine and Lala, and how Jasmine had made that comment early on in the season about how she felt like, if Lala wasn't on this show, they wouldn't even be talking right now, or they wouldn't really be friends. And then we get a little bit of backstory about them. So this I didn't know. Like I knew that Jasmine worked at Sir, but I didn't know that she worked there at the same time as Lala. So they did. And apparently they were pretty thick. And Lala explains, I was 24. I met someone who kind of isolated me. I had a baby and my friendships changed. They shifted, which is a very normal way to explain why you stop being friends with someone, right? She's explaining it in a much more global way than the way Jasmine is trying to make it, where she's making it like, this is all about the show, right? And you wouldn't be talking to me if not for the show. It's not about our friendships shifting. But Jasmine's more so just saying, like, it felt like something to question. And she's right, right? Like, she was doing her job on reality TV. She was questioning what was going on. So that's totally fine. Lala explains what happened with Sheena. Oh, by the way, this is the extended uncensored version. So that's the version I watched. So we get this scene where Lala really breaks down about Sheena and explains what really happened there. So I've heard this story before, but I think this is maybe the first time we're hearing it from Lala's perspective, but she's really, really emotional. She explains that this all started with Sheena where she was having a conversation with Jenna Willis, who, if you're an old school VPR watcher, you know who Jenna Willis is. She was there from A1 day one. She slept with James when Kristen was still with him. She was in Sheena's first wedding, so they were tight. But at this point in time, Jenna and Sheena were not good, to my understanding. So Jenna was going off about Sheena, and Lala was like, listen, she's going through a lot right now. And Jenna's like, I don't care. She's like, no, listen, like, she's writing her book, or her book is coming out soon, where she's revealed that Brock had an affair. So she's kind of going through it. And then Jenna took that information and reported it to Zach. That Zach then reported that back to Sheena. And Lala was really sorry for that, but she wanted and asked Sheena not to take this to the streets and hope to work it out between the two of them. But Sheena could not stop talking about it, and she doesn't recognize the person that Sheena is today. I think Sheena's version of that story is that she told Lala, I will talk to you about this when I get the chance. I'm dealing with XYZ right now. Let's just hold off. Let me talk to you. And then Lala maybe kept following up or something. And she's like, I just don't have time right now. I will talk to you about this in a minute, or when I have a second. And then I think Lala freaked out on her and like went public. Who went public first? I don't know. Lala is implying that Sheena went public first. I don't recall. But Sheena's version was more so that she was going to have that talk with her, and then Lala didn't allow that to happen, and then maybe either took it to the streets or just ended their friendship, assuming that it wasn't going to be good anymore. So, how it always is with these people is like, they don't talk for a while and then they do again. So, I kind of do hope that they get their friendships back together, especially for the kids. They have neighboring houses in Palm Springs. They raised their kids as a family for like a really long time. And that was really something like important and special to Lala. So I hope they can figure it out. I really do. A lot of people think that that's the reason that Sheena didn't come back to the Valley. Who really knows, But like, they haven't talked in a year, and that's crazy to think, right? How close they were at one point. But again, that being said, with these Vanderpump Rules, the Valley people, right? Like, they can go through some really hard shit. Like, I don't know, sleeping with your friend's ex and then like continue to be friends again, right? So we've seen worse. We've seen people come through worse. Then we talk about Zach and Janet. He says that he thinks that she does manipulative things like getting a gift for people instead of like letting friendships sort of progress naturally. So he's like, she's always like trying to like buy someone or win them over in some way. Now, Janet gives a very normal explanation for this. She was like, you invited me to your housewarming party. I couldn't go, so I bought you a gift. I don't think that's being manipulative, right? I still to this day want to know the details of what happened between Zach and Janet from like 2018 to the point in time where they stopped talking and then only started talking again right when the show started or like filming. We never got that information. If we had had a season one reunion, I think we would have, but we never truly got that backstory as to what happened between Zach and Janet that was so incredibly bad that he could not be friends with her. Then Zach says that he is not really swayed by like the audience or what they think, and Janet thinks that that's a crock of shit. I also think that's a crock of shit. I mean, I like Zach just fine, but he is all up in the comments. He is always there. He's on threads. He's chronically online. So I would disagree. And I do really feel like you could see that push and pull in him where he would want to be friends with Janet, for example. But I think that he did sort of feel like he hitched his wagon to, or he is trying to hitch his wagon to the couples or the people on the show that the audience favors, right? And that just kind of makes sense. He's sort of like a B character anyway. And so it would make sense for him to do that. And I feel like that's where Jasmine has always sort of struggled. And she mentioned that really briefly here, where she feels like this group is always shutting me down and not listening to me. So the only time I can tell my truth is in confessionals. And I feel like last year she really struggled because I feel like she was really upset about what Danny did to her and Melissa. But because the group was going so hard on Janet and not going hard on Danny, she probably couldn't feel like she could express herself and how she truly felt about the situation in a real way because that's not what the audience was favoring, right? I do think this entire group is very concerned with what the audience thinks. It's not a Zach thing or a Janet thing or anybody thing, in my opinion. Kristen explains why she's so hard on Janet when she was forgiven a long time ago. So the question was sort of asked to her, like, how come you can't forgive Janet when you have done so many things over time to so many people? Like, how come you are allowed to be forgiven and Janet is not allowed to be forgiven? Was the question. And Kristen explains, I worked really, really hard back in season 3 of Vanderpump Rules. I didn't have any friends for a year and a half. I had to rebuild those friendships. I had to change. I had to go to therapy. And then those people like Katie and Stassi, they ended up coming back to me naturally because I changed with my actions. And so that's when they naturally wanted me back in their lives. And she says that she has not seen that change with Janet whatsoever. She's been waiting for it, but she hasn't seen it. Now, when she said this, it pointed me to a particular moment in the season when there's a sit down with Kristen and Janet. Is that right? Kristen and Janet? Sorry, Kristen and Lala, one of their 2 sit downs this season. And Lala is explaining how much that Janet has grown and changed. And Kristen is just like, I just don't have like the capacity to like look for that or care or anything. Like, cause she's like, I'm so past that I'm like in my own little bubble and I just don't have the capacity to like care about what's going on with Janet or whether she changed. So I'm pretty positive she said something in that regard. So because she did, therefore, for you to say like you haven't seen Janet change, well, you're not looking, right? She was also freshly postpartum as well, right? Dealing with her baby, dealing with her own marriage, dealing with her actual friendships while everyone was trying to push her towards Janet, which I understand that's super annoying. Like, if you don't want to be friends with someone, you don't want to be friends with someone. But I also don't think that she was looking for the change in Janet because she wasn't spending time with her. She wasn't listening to what other people were saying. And her mind was still very clouded with her Janet hate. So whether it happened or not, she wouldn't be privy, in my opinion. Jason feels like Zach wanted to make up with Janet, and he actually did so on camera, which we did see, but then only pulled back because he knew it wasn't going to win him over with the audience. And Lacy jumps in and she says that she thinks that Zach actually really loves Janet deep down, and it's not about the audience. It's more so about him actually having true feelings for her and trying to like work that out. Zach said the thing with Janet is just that she can't let things go. Lala said that Zach is the same way, and he is, right? Because this season, Lala said that Zach called her and said that, or they had like this 10-minute long conversation about all the things that Janet had done to him since 2018. So they both can't let things go. And then everyone sort of agrees that they're very similar and they're sort of like the same person. So they are encouraged to get up and hug, which they do. And you hear Danny in the background going like, "What's happening? What is this?" And Nia whispers to him, reunions are for getting to a better place. So if they can get to a better place, that's what we're trying to do. And he just looks pissed because, like, he wants the audience and the cast to be anti-Janet, right? That's to his benefit. That's to his favor. Now, we barely got any of him or Nia in this episode. That's obviously going to ramp up, I'm sure, in episodes 2 and 3 of this reunion. But I will say that, like, yeah, he barely says anything, but like, he seems really angry and he seems really scared too. There was just like something different about him. A lot of people were saying it was a lot of Botox. I don't know, just something seemed off about him. He looked mad and terrified, if anything. Then we talk about Zach and Brittany's relationship. And Brittany says that he is not the same Kentucky Zach that she's known for 18 years. He's a lot more outspoken. And Brittany feels like, she's always getting yelled at by him and talked over, which was not something that used to happen in their relationship. Then Andy asked Kristen about saying on camera that Nia guilt trips Zach and then denying it. And she doesn't really have an explanation for that. She's just sort of like, I don't know why I said that. But Brittany's upset about it because Kristen blamed her and threw her under the bus when it was something that Kristen had said, yet she throws Brittany under the bus for it, and Zach ended up believing Kristen and not Brittany. And so she was really, really hurt by that. And Zach ends up saying that I really don't feel like you've had my back lately. And Brittany disagrees with that. And that's where we end. So that'll obviously pick up. But I think that for the most part, Brittany and Zach will always have a good relationship. I think no matter how hard they fight or what goes on between them, they'll always sort of come back to center because they have that long-standing relationship. But it's sort of expected that if you go on TV with your friends or family, things are going to shift, things are going to change, right? I very much anticipate the same thing to be happening or will happen with House of Stassi in terms of her friends and family, because like when money gets involved and jealousy and popularity and the audience, it's a lot of stuff, right? It can be kind of chaotic and it can destroy relationships, friendships, or otherwise. All right, you guys. Well, that is the end of the episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I will see you back tomorrow, like I said, for Married at First Sight. And until next time, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, join the Facebook page. And again, don't forget, I have a whole new podcast that comes out every other Saturday called All You Need Is You, a podcast about living your best solo life. You can access it in the show notes, or you can just type into Apple or Spotify, All You Need Is You. Follow the show, listen to the show, like the show. I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at the Bravo Investigator. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and join the Facebook page. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review.